The autumn rain pelted against the window of Camilla's small apartment in Seattle as she sorted through another stack of bills. Her fingers trembled slightly. Not from the cold, but from exhaustion. 3 jobs barely kept her afloat, and tonight was supposed to be her only evening off this week. The clock on her microwave blinked 8:47 p.m., and she realized she hadn't eaten since morning. Her phone sat silent on the counter, its cracked screen reflecting the dim kitchen light. She picked it up to check the time when it suddenly vibrated in her hand. Unknown number. Camilla almost declined the call. Telemarketers had been relentless lately, and she couldn't afford to waste minutes on her prepaid plan. But something made her pause. Maybe it was the Seattle area code, or perhaps just the loneliness that had settled into her bones over the past 2 years. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hello?" Her voice came out raspier than expected. Silence greeted her. Not the dead silence of a disconnected line, but the weighted silence of someone breathing on the other end. Gathering courage, or searching for words. "Hello?" she repeated, ready to hang up. Then she heard it. A whisper so soft it barely traveled through the phone's speaker. Yet it hit her with the force of a lightning strike. "I miss you." The voice was different. Deeper. Aged by time and something else she couldn't identify. But beneath those changes lay a familiar cadence that made her knees buckle. She gripped the counter's edge, her knuckles white against the worn laminate. "Marcus?" The name escaped her lips before she could stop it. The breathing on the other end quickened. She heard what sounded like a suppressed sob. Then the line went dead. Camilla stared at her phone, her heart hammering against her ribs. It couldn't be Marcus. Marcus had disappeared 2 years ago without a trace, leaving behind only questions and a void that had swallowed her whole. The police had found his car by the Columbia River, his wallet and phone inside, but no body. After 6 months of searching, they'd presumed him dead. She'd grieved. God, how she'd grieved. She'd sold their house because she couldn't afford the mortgage alone and couldn't bear the memories embedded in every wall. She'd taken job after job to pay off the debt from the search efforts the police wouldn't cover. She'd learned to stop flinching when she saw men with his build on the street, learned to stop hoping, and now this. Her hands shook as she checked the call log. The number stared back at her. 10 digits that could change everything or destroy her all over again. She pressed redial before she could think better of it. The call went straight to a generic voicemail. Camilla sank onto her kitchen floor, the cold tile pressing through her thin pajama pants. Her mind raced through possibilities. Someone playing a cruel prank? But who would know to use that phrase? "I miss you." 3 words. Marcus had whispered to her every night before sleep. Even after 15 years of marriage, she thought about calling her sister in Portland, but Helen had made it clear she was tired of what she called Camilla's inability to move on. Her therapist would say this was a grief hallucination, that stress and exhaustion could create auditory mirages. But Camilla knew what she'd heard. She pulled herself up and walked to her bedroom closet. Behind boxes of winter clothes sat a small fireproof safe. Inside, along with important documents, lay a folder she hadn't opened in months. Marcus's case file. Photos from their last vacation. The note he'd left on the refrigerator that morning. "Working late tonight. I miss you already. M." She spread the contents across her bed. The detective's business card had yellowed slightly. Detective Rivera had been kind but firm. Without evidence of foul play, there was little they could do after the initial investigation. Suicide was the unspoken conclusion, though Camilla had raged against it. Marcus had been planning their anniversary trip to Hawaii. He'd just gotten promoted. He'd been excited about starting a family. Men who were planning futures didn't just walk away. Her phone buzzed again. Her heart leaped. But it was only her boss at the diner, asking if she could cover tomorrow's morning shift. She ignored it, her eyes fixed on a photo of Marcus laughing at some joke she couldn't remember. His brown eyes crinkled at the corners. Those eyes had looked tired in the weeks before he disappeared. She'd attributed it to work stress. He'd been distant, checking his phone constantly, taking calls in the garage. When she'd asked, He'd pulled her close and said everything was fine, that he just had a demanding client. What if everything hadn't been fine? Camilla grabbed her laptop, its ancient processor wheezing to life. She'd done this search 100 times in those first months. But she typed his name again. The same old results populated her screen. The missing person report. A few news articles from when it happened. His LinkedIn profile frozen in time. But something new caught her eye. A small news item from 3 weeks ago about unidentified remains found near Mount Rainier. Her blood ran cold, then hot. She clicked the link, but it led to a paywall. She was about to close the laptop when her phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time, she answered immediately. Marcus, if this is you, please, don't say my name. The voice was urgent now, clearer but still that devastating whisper. Please. Just listen. Camilla's free hand pressed against her mouth to stifle a sob. It was him. Despite the changes, despite the impossibility, she knew her husband's voice. I'm sorry, he continued. I'm so sorry, Camilla. I wanted to call sooner, but it wasn't safe. It's still not safe. Where are you? What happened? Marcus, I thought you were dead. I know. That was the only way. His voice cracked. I need you to know. I didn't want to leave. Every day has been hell without you. Then come back. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Whatever happened, we can fix it. We can go to the police. No. The sharpness of his response made her flinch. No police. Promise me, Camilla. No police. I don't understand. Are you in trouble? Did someone hurt you? Silence stretched between them. She could hear traffic in the background, maybe rain. Wherever he was outside. I made mistakes, he finally said. I got involved with the wrong people. I thought I could handle it, thought I could protect you from it. But they made it clear that the only way to keep you safe was to disappear. Who are these people? I can't tell you. The less you know, the safer you are. I shouldn't even be calling. But I had to hear your voice. Just once. I've driven by the old house. I know you had to sell it. I'm sorry about that too. The casual admission that he'd been close enough to see their old house sent chills down her spine. You've been here? In Seattle? A few times. Always at a distance. You look tired, baby. You're working too much. The endearment broke something inside her. She pressed her forehead against the cool wall, trying to ground herself in reality. This is insane. Marcus. This is insane. You can't just call after 2 years and tell me you've been watching me. I know how it sounds, but I need you to listen. Really listen. In about a week, you're going to get a call from a lawyer about an inheritance from a distant relative you've never heard of. Take it. Don't question it. It's enough to pay off the debt and start fresh. I don't want money. I want my husband back. That man is dead, Camilla. He has to stay dead. The man I am now. You wouldn't recognize him. I've done things. His voice broke off. I don't care what you've done. You would. Trust me, you would. He sounded so tired, so defeated. But I need you to know that loving you was the only pure thing in my life. It still is. Even from a distance, even like this, you're my anchor. This isn't fair. The words came out as a whisper. You don't get to make that choice for me. You don't get to decide what I can handle. I know. Add it to the list of things I need to be sorry for. A car horn blared in the background. I have to go. No, wait. I love you, Camilla. I'll always love you. Try to be happy. Try to move on. You deserve so much better than a ghost. Marcus. But he was gone. Camilla didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, willing it to ring again while simultaneously dreading another call. By dawn, her eyes were raw from crying and lack of sleep, but her mind was sharper than it had been in months. She called in sick to all 3 jobs, something she'd never done before. Her bank account would suffer, but she needed time to think, to process what had happened. Was she losing her mind? The rational part of her brain insisted she must be, that grief and exhaustion had finally pushed her over the edge, but the call log was there. 2 calls from the same number, lasting a total of 12 minutes that had shattered her carefully reconstructed world. By 7 in the morning, she was showered, dressed, and standing outside the Seattle Public Library, waiting for it to open. The security cameras at her apartment were cheap and often malfunctioning, but the library had resources she needed. The elderly librarian, Mrs. Chen, smiled at her with concern. Camilla realized she must look as frayed as she felt. "Rough night, dear," something like that. Camilla managed a weak smile. "I need to use the computers, and maybe access some newspaper archives?" Mrs. Chen led her to a quiet corner terminal. "Take your time. You look like you could use some coffee. There's a pot in the staff room. Help yourself." Kindness from strangers nearly undid her. Camilla blinked back fresh tears and got to work. First, she researched the number that had called her. It led nowhere substantial. Likely a burner phone. Probably already discarded. But she wrote it down anyway, along with the exact times of the calls. Next, she dove deeper into news archives from around the time Marcus disappeared. She'd been too devastated then to look beyond the immediate coverage of his disappearance. Now, with clearer eyes, she searched for patterns. 3 months before Marcus vanished, there had been a series of articles about financial irregularities at several Seattle-based companies. She'd paid no attention at the time. Marcus worked in IT, consulting, not finance. But one company name made her pause. Cascade Technical Solutions. Marcus had mentioned them as a new client around that time. She dug deeper. Cascade Technical Solutions had been investigated for money laundering, with suspected ties to organized crime. The investigation had mysteriously stalled after key witnesses either disappeared or recanted their testimonies. Her blood ran cold. The timing lined up too perfectly to be coincidence. She printed everything she could find, stuffing the pages into her bag. Mrs. Chen pretended not to notice Camilla's shaking hands when she thanked her and left. Back at her apartment, Camilla spread the printed articles across her living room floor. She added Marcus's case file, creating a timeline on her wall with yarn and pushpins like some conspiracy theorist in a movie. But this wasn't a theory. This was her life. Her doorbell rang, making her jump. Through the peephole, she saw a delivery man with a large envelope. "Camilla Rodriguez?" "Yes?" "Sign here, please." The envelope bore the logo of a law firm she didn't recognize. Her hands trembled as she opened it, Marcus's warning echoing in her head. "In about a week, you're going to get a call from a lawyer about an inheritance." But it had only been 1 day. Inside was a letter informing her that a great-aunt she'd never heard of had left her a substantial inheritance. The amount made her sink onto her couch. It was enough to pay off all her debts, with plenty left over to start a new life. There was no great-aunt. She knew that. This was Marcus. Somehow, taking care of her from wherever he was hiding. The gesture should have comforted her. But instead, it made her angry. He thought he could buy her a new life? Make her forget? She set the letter aside and returned to her timeline. If Marcus had gotten involved with Cascade Technical Solutions, if they'd used him to launder money or hack systems or God knows what else, then his disappearance made a terrible kind of sense. But it also meant he was living under constant threat. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, please, for both our sakes." Camilla stared at the message. He was watching her somehow. The thought should have been creepy. But instead, it filled her with determination. If he could watch her, maybe she could find him. She texted back, "I won't stop. Not this time." No response. That evening, she drove to their old neighborhood. The new owners had painted the house yellow. Marcus would have hated that. She parked down the street, watching. If he'd driven by before, maybe he'd do it again. Hours passed. Her phone remained silent. Just as she was about to give up, A dark sedan cruised slowly past the house. The windows were tinted, but something about the way it paused, just for a moment, in front of the yellow house, made her heart race. She started her car and followed at a distance. The sedan made several turns, heading toward the industrial district. Camilla knew she was being reckless, probably stupid, but she couldn't stop herself. The sedan finally pulled into a motel parking lot, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. Camilla parked across the street, her heart hammering. A man got out of the sedan. He wore a baseball cap pulled low and moved with a slight limp that hadn't been there 2 years ago. But she knew those shoulders. That way of checking his surroundings. Marcus. She was out of her car before she could think. Marcus. He spun around, and for a moment, their eyes met across the parking lot. Even in the dim light, she could see the shock on his face, the way it transformed into terror. No. He held up a hand as if to physically stop her. Camilla, get back in your car. Now. But she was already running toward him. 2 years of grief and anger and love propelled her forward. She was halfway across the lot when another car screeched into the space, cutting her off. 2 men emerged, and Marcus's face went white. Run! He shouted. One of the men turned toward her while the other advanced on Marcus. She saw the gun in his hand and screamed. Well, the man facing her said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. Mrs. Rodriguez, we've been wondering when you'd surface. I don't know anything, she said automatically. Maybe. Maybe not. He smiled, and it was the coldest expression she'd ever seen. But you're here now. Which changes things. Marcus had backed against his car, hands raised. Let her go, Vincent. She's got nothing to do with this. Vincent, apparently that was the smiling man's name, chuckled. You know that's not how this works, Marcus. You broke the rules. You ran. We let it slide because you were smart enough to stay gone. But calling her? Meeting her? That's a different story. I didn't mean for her to follow me. Please, I'll do anything. Just let her go. Touching. Really? Vincent nodded to his partner. Bring them both. No! Marcus moved then, faster than Camilla expected. He grabbed the other man's gun hand, and they struggled. The shot was impossibly loud in the quiet lot. Marcus staggered, his hand going to his side. Blood seeped between his fingers. Marcus! Camilla tried to run to him, but Vincent caught her arm in an iron grip. That was stupid, Vincent told Marcus conversationally. Now we have to do this the hard way. Marcus had slumped against the car, his breathing labored, his eyes found Camilla's. I'm sorry, he mouthed. Enough drama. Vincent started dragging Camilla toward their car. You're both coming with us. Mr. Chen has questions, and you're going to answer them. I told you everything 2 years ago. Marcus gasped. I gave you the files. I disappeared like you wanted. Yes. But then you got sentimental. And that changes our arrangement. They were almost to the car when sirens wailed in the distance. Vincent cursed. Someone called the cops. Move. In the confusion, Camilla wrenched free. She ran back to Marcus, dropping to her knees beside him. His blood was warm on her hands as she pressed against the wound. Why? She whispered. Why didn't you just stay away? He reached up with a trembling hand to touch her face. Because I meant it. I miss you. Every second of every day. The sirens were getting closer. Vincent and his partner were already in their car, tires squealing as they fled. We need to get you to a hospital. No, Marcus gripped her hand. Listen to me. There's a storage unit. Peterson's on Aurora, Unit 47. Everything's there. Everything they want, and more. Take it to the FBI, not local police. FBI. Promise me. You're going to be okay. You're going to tell them yourself. But his eyes were already losing focus. I love you, Camilla. I never stopped. The police cars screeched into the lot, officers emerging with weapons drawn. Camilla raised her bloody hands, Marcus's head in her lap. We need an ambulance. she screamed. "Please, he's dying," as the chaos swirled around her. Officers shouting orders, paramedics rushing over, questions being fired at her that she couldn't process. Camilla held onto Marcus's hand and whispered the words she'd never thought she'd get to say again. "I miss you too." The hospital waiting room became Camilla's entire world for the next 6 hours. The police had questioned her extensively, but she'd given them only the basics. She'd received a call from her missing husband, followed him, and witnessed the shooting. She said nothing about storage units or the FBI. Not yet. A detective named Morrison seemed skeptical of her story. "Your husband's been missing for 2 years, presumed dead? And he just happens to call you out of the blue?" "I know how it sounds," Camilla said wearily. She was still wearing Marcus's blood on her clothes. They'd offered her scrubs, but she couldn't bring herself to change. "But it's the truth. And these men who shot him, you'd never seen them before?" "Never." Morrison's partner, a younger woman named Detective Park, studied her with sharp eyes. "Mrs. Rodriguez, is there any reason someone might want to hurt your husband? Did he have enemies? Gambling debts? Affairs?" "No, nothing like that." The lie came easily. Marcus had asked her to take it to the FBI, not local police. She'd honor that, even if she didn't understand why. Finally, mercifully, a doctor emerged. Dr. Patel looked exhausted, but not grim. Camilla's heart leaped. "Mrs. Rodriguez? Your husband is stable. The bullet missed major organs, but he lost a significant amount of blood. He's sedated now, but you can see him briefly." The detectives wanted to accompany her, but Dr. Patel firmly refused. "My patient needs rest. You can speak with him when he's stronger." Marcus looked smaller in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. His face was pale, but his chest rose and fell steadily. Camilla took his hand. "Careful of the IV. I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." His eyes fluttered open, unfocused from medication. "Camilla? Shh. Rest. The unit," he mumbled. "You have to." "I know. I'll take care of it." He squeezed her hand weakly before drifting back to sleep. A nurse entered. "I'm sorry, but you'll need to leave now. He needs rest." Camilla kissed Marcus's forehead and left. In the hallway, she made a decision. The detectives were conferring near the nurse's station. She slipped past them and out of the hospital. Peterson's storage on Aurora Avenue was exactly the kind of place someone would hide secrets. Run down, minimal security, no questions asked. Unit 47 was in the back corner. Camilla used the bolt cutters she'd bought at a 24-hour hardware store to break the lock. Inside, illuminated by her phone's flashlight, sat a treasure trove of evidence. Boxes of financial documents, hard drives, USB sticks, and photographs. One box was labeled simply, "Insurance." Inside, she found detailed records of Cascade Technical Solutions' money laundering operations, names, dates, amounts, enough to put dozens of people in prison. Another box contained personal items. Their wedding photo, her grandmother's ring that had gone missing a year before he disappeared, and letters, so many letters, all addressed to her, all unsent. She opened one at random. "My darling Camilla, it's been 73 days. I know because I count each one. I saw you at the grocery store yesterday. You were buying those terrible frozen dinners you live on when you're stressed. I wanted to cook for you so badly it physically hurt. I know you blame yourself. I know because I know you. Please don't. This is my fault, all of it. I was arrogant. I thought I was smarter than them. When I discovered what Cascade was really doing, I should have gone straight to the authorities. Instead, I tried to gather evidence on my own. By the time I realized how deep it went, it was too late. They knew I knew. Vincent made it clear. Disappear or watch you die. It wasn't a choice. I'm writing these letters I'll never send because if I don't, I'll go insane. I love you. That's my only truth now. Forever yours, M. Camilla was crying again, clutching the letter. She checked the date. 3 months after he'd vanished. He'd been so close. Watching her grieve. Unable to comfort her. Her phone buzzed. Morrison. Mrs. Rodriguez, where are you? You need to return to the hospital immediately. I'll be back soon, she said and hung up. She loaded everything into her car, then drove to the Seattle FBI field office. It was nearly dawn by the time she walked in, exhausted and determined. I need to speak with someone about organized crime and money laundering, she told the receptionist. I have evidence regarding Cascade Technical Solutions. That name got immediate attention. Within minutes, she was in an interview room with 2 federal agents. Start from the beginning, Agent Sullivan said, so she did. Everything from Marcus's disappearance to the shooting. She showed them samples of what was in the boxes. Agent Sullivan's expression grew increasingly serious. This is significant, Mrs. Rodriguez. Your husband gathered enough evidence to take down a major money laundering ring with ties to international crime syndicates. Is that why he told me to come to you instead of local police? Agent Chen, Sullivan's partner, nodded. Cascade had connections everywhere, including law enforcement. Your husband was smart to be cautious. Can you protect him? These people already tried to kill him once. We'll need his cooperation. He'll have to testify. What about witness protection? The agents exchanged glances. That's certainly an option we can discuss. By the time Camilla returned to the hospital, the sun was high, and Marcus was awake. The detectives were there, looking frustrated, but the FBI agents who'd accompanied her back flashed badges that made them step aside. 5 minutes, Agent Sullivan said. Camilla sat beside Marcus's bed. He looked more alert now, more like himself, despite the pallor. You did it? He asked. I did it. The FBI has everything. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. For all of it. You didn't ask for this life. No, she agreed. But I asked for you. For better or worse. Remember? This is definitely worse. We've survived worse. We survived 2 years apart. We can survive this. He opened his eyes, and she saw hope there for the first time. You'd come with me? If we had to go into protection? Marcus, I've spent 2 years mourning you. It won't be easy. New names, new city, no contact with anyone from our old life. I don't care. Your sister will understand, eventually. And if she doesn't, that's her choice. I've made mine. Marcus reached up to touch her face, echoing his gesture from the parking lot. This time, his hand was steady. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she said, managing a small smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. Agent Sullivan knocked. Time's up. Mr. Rodriguez, we need to discuss your options. Over the next weeks, everything moved quickly. Marcus recovered and began cooperating with the FBI. His testimony, combined with the evidence he'd gathered, led to the largest organized crime bust in Seattle's history. Vincent and his associates were arrested, along with dozens of others. Camilla quit her jobs, settled her affairs, and said goodbye to the few people who mattered. Helen cried but ultimately understood. Mrs. Chen from the library hugged her and pressed a book of poetry into her hands. For wherever you're going, the inheritance from the fictional great-aunt was determined to be legitimate earnings Marcus had hidden away, not connected to the criminal enterprise. It would give them a start in their new life. On a gray March morning, Camilla and Marcus stood in a small federal courthouse, taking new names and new identities. The Rodriguezes were officially dead. In their place stood 2 people with a different last name, bound for a city they'd never lived in, with a future they couldn't predict. Any regrets? Marcus asked as they were driven to the airport. Camilla thought about it. The life they were leaving behind, the people they'd never see again, the dreams they'd had to abandon. Then she looked at her husband, alive, free, and hers again. No, she said simply. No regrets. Their handler, a no-nonsense woman named Janet, briefed them one final time on their plane. Remember, no contact with your old life. Ever. One slip could compromise everything. We understand, Marcus said. Good. Your new home is ready. Jobs have been arranged. You'll have handlers nearby for the first year, then you're on your own. As the plane lifted off, Camilla watched Seattle disappear beneath the clouds. Somewhere down there was the apartment where she'd answered that impossible phone call. The hospital where Marcus had almost died. The storage unit that had held their salvation. Marcus took her hand. I know this isn't the life we planned. No, she agreed. But we're together. That's what matters. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Just spend the rest of your life with me. That's enough. He brought her hand to his lips. Deal. 6 months later, in a small town whose name she never would have known in her old life, Camilla, now Sarah, tended a garden behind their modest house. Marcus, now Michael, was inside, working at his new job in cybersecurity for a company that didn't ask too many questions about his past. Her phone rang, unknown number. For a moment, her heart stopped. Then she remembered. No one had this number who shouldn't. Hello, Sarah? This is Dr. Martinez from the clinic. Just confirming your appointment tomorrow. Yes, I'll be there. She hung up and placed a hand on her still flat stomach. A new beginning, in more ways than one. Marcus didn't know yet. She'd tell him tonight over dinner. Their new tradition of cooking together. No more frozen meals eaten alone. The sun was setting, painting their small yard gold. It wasn't Seattle. It wasn't the life they'd planned. But it was theirs. Hard-won and precious. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. On my way home. I miss you. She smiled and texted back. I miss you too. And for the first time in years, she meant it only in the sweetest way. The temporary separation of a workday. Not the aching void of loss. He'd be home in 10 minutes. They'd cook dinner, they'd talk about their days, they'd plan for a future that was finally, truly possible. In the distance, a train whistle blew, carrying its cargo to unknown destinations. Camilla listened to it fade, then went inside to start dinner. Somewhere out there, the Rodriguezes were still dead, their tragedy a closed file. But Sarah and Michael? They were very much alive, and that was enough.